Yeah, and I mean, Mick, this is a really interesting thing to me here because it is so clearly, and it has clearly been from the start, this is about breaking the system that China has been using of currency manipulation, of mercantilism, of abusing its trade surplus, abusing intellectual property, and on down the line. I mean, when you take Trump out of the equation, this problem would have still existed. We would still have this problem with China in the United States, and it would only get worse. So in a sense, I mean, what Trump is doing is crazy brave, but there's nobody else in the political class who seem to have any appetite for taking on this relationship because, oh, well, it might spook markets or it might do this. And it seemed to me like until now, Washington had been on a kind of a collision course with a brick wall on this one.
Yeah, well, back up about 4 years during the 2020 campaign, when Joe Biden was running against then-President Donald Trump, and he was attacking Donald Trump for putting a lot of the tariffs on China during the campaign. Oh, it raised the cost of living, et cetera, et cetera. It's bad for business. It's bad for markets, et cetera. Then when Biden wins, he leaves most of the same tariffs on, doesn't do any more, doesn't take the next step, which, by the way, there would have been support for in this town because antipathy towards China is one of the few bipartisan things in Washington, D.C. right now, but left those on but doesn't do anything additional. Then Trump comes back in and takes the next step, which a lot of people support. I support. Look, I've been very critical of a lot of the tariff program. I've been critical of sort of taking the meat cleaver to the system and insulting some of our friends. I don't think that's long-term beneficial to us. But I'm very supportive of what we're doing in China. I think we might end up doing more, and I would support that as well. There was a leading commentator here on TV this week saying he thought tariffs should be 400% on China because it's the only way they're ever going to change. Until China starts acting like a first world nation, like a leading nation of the world, like an open sort of government, and not like an old-fashioned communist dictatorship, you have to treat them like a communist dictatorship. And I think that's where the Trump White House is and is going to stay.
Mick, was it naive for both sides of politics to support China coming into the WTO? I'm talking about 20, even 30 years ago, and say, oh, well, you know, they'll just become more liberal if we liberalize trade.
Yeah, you know, there was a consensus here back in the late 90s. Go back to the Clinton administration. Not blaming Clinton for this, because there's plenty of blame to go around, where a lot of people thought that more globalized trade, especially with China, would be good for American GDP and good for American jobs. They got it half right. It was pretty good for GDP, and our shirts got cheaper, our socks got cheaper, and we devastated the middle class. So I think, yeah, we certainly made some mistakes. There's Republicans and Democrats to blame for that. The question is not now who's to blame. The question is who's going to fix it. And I think despite the choppy sort of rollout they had on this tariff plan this week, and believe me, it's more than just choppy. I don't mean to minimize what happened in the markets this week. Donald Trump's head is on right when it comes to dealing with China.
Well, they did get a bit yippy, those markets there. Mick Mulvaney, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.